Hello everyone, this is Gayle, and today I'm going to show you how to make a daisy cane. Now this is a method that I learned from Donna Cato, and matter of fact I believe it's in one of her books, The Art of Polymer Clay Millefiori Techniques. I believe it's in there. But I learned it at a workshop that I attended of hers, and I was going through my notes trying to find something that I wanted to teach you guys, and I ran across that, and I thought, I haven't done that in forever, and I've used all of my daisy cane that I had. Excuse me while I'm working while I'm talking. I'm just trying to get some clay ready to make a Skinner blend. But anyway, I'm going to, first off, you're going to need some black clay, some white and yellow clay. This is Primo Sunshine, and of course Primo White. And I'm going to make a Skinner blend of the white and the yellow, and I really want some white, and I didn't allow for white, so you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some scrap and of course your Skinner blend is a double thickness, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to add white to the end. Don't you just love clay? You can fix so many mistakes sometimes just by adding clay, but I definitely want to keep some white on one end. And I'm going to make a Skinner blend, and I'm going to turn the sound off. I don't usually do Skinner blends on camera, but I have had some new people lately that have signed up, and I want to help them. So making a Skinner blend, you start off with two right triangles. And this one, you know, you put together. If you want yellow to be on one end, you leave a little bit of yellow without the white. And here I've got the white without the yellow. It's a double thickness of clay on the thickest setting of your pasta machine. And you're going to roll it through in this direction. And then you always, always, always keep this orientation. You never turn it this way, or you just end up with a nice light shade of yellow. This way you'll end up with a blend. So you keep the one color on one side, the other color on the other. This side is all yellow, this side is all white, and we keep it that way. And I'm going to start off. Let me move my machine over here, and I apologize for the noise because it isn't I've got a motor on my machine. But I want to turn the sound off, and I'm going to run this through a couple of times on camera, and then I'll turn it off to finish the blend. So let me turn the sound off. Okay, now this looks like it's just an awful lot of white and a little bit of yellow, but if you look up here, the yellow is inside here, so it will eventually blend, and you can't tell much more over here, except I don't know if you can see or not on camera, but the yellow extends out to here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish blending this. And again, always fold it so that your yellow is on one side and your white is on the other. And just continue blending. And I'll be back as soon as I finish my blend. Okay, I ran this through 20 times, and you can see that there's a nice blend now from the white to the yellow. It probably could be blended a little bit more, but for my purposes, this is going to be perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this into thirds. And roll it through the pasta machine this way with the white first, because I want to have a long sheet of white to yellow. So I'm going to start on the thickest setting. And you see I got a pretty long sheet here. But I'm going to cut this little bit of yellow off at the top just because it's going to complicate things later on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go down to the number 3 setting, which is the third thickest setting, and I'll run that through. And see, I have another long sheet. But I do believe I'm going to go down to number 5. Now the reason I'm doing this, I'm going to roll this into a plug, and if I roll it into a plug now, you're going to see this thickness of color in a ring in your plug, and I want to minimize that. So I'm going to go down now. I was on a number 3. I'm going to go down 2 settings to a number 5. Now, this is going to be really long, so excuse me if I have to lay it somewhere. You see, this is really long. And I'm going to drape one side over my pasta machine. And I'm going to fold over the bottom to give it a straight edge without losing any of my color. And I am going to just trim this off because it did flare out a little bit on this end. Make sure there's no air in there. And then you can start pushing this up. Just push it up a little bit with your fingers. And keep pushing. Till it starts to roll. Now I personally like to get a acrylic block to roll this. But I'm not going to today just because not everybody has got all these things. So I'm just going to use the flat of my hand to roll it, because if I use my fingers, I end up getting finger marks in them, and I don't want that. So I'm going to roll a little bit and then press in the ends, and that's so you don't have so many ragged ends here. And I'm going to roll a little bit, and I'm not rolling straight. That's the only thing about not using a block, is I can't see what I'm doing. Squeeze the ends. Now if you want more yellow in your daisy, you can use zinc yellow or cadmium yellow instead of the sunshine. I cut this little tongue off also. Now looking at this, I think I'd like a little more white. So I'm going to take some more white. And remember to put my pasta machine back on the thickest setting. And I'm going to condition this to wrap around. I'll be right back. Okay, now I'm going to trim off this excess that's sticking out here. And then I'm going to take this white, which just needs to be a little bit wider. So rather than mess with it, I'm going to just stretch it with my fingers. I'm going to cut a straight edge. This is on the thickest setting because I want a good layer of white on the outside. And hopefully, well, that just barely does meet. Not even enough to trim. I just don't want it to overlap here too much. Kind of close in this little bit of a gap and then roll it. And I roll, and then I turn it up on end and press, and that's to help get the ends flat. Because, like I said, because of the way I was rolling this, the fact that I'm sitting away from my table, this end came out a little bit, and this end went in a little bit. So by doing this, I'm saving some of that. Plus, I want a flat log right now. Okay, now what I want to do now is wrap this in a thin layer of black. So let me get out, this is my black. And I'm going to put, this has already been conditioned, but I need to flatten it out. So let me flatten this real quick. Okay, now this is on the number 3 setting of my pasta machine, which is the 3rd thickest. Let me get my other clay off of my blade. I'm going to make a straight edge. And I'm going to cut this to size for right now. And just wrap it one time in the black. Wasn't quite wide enough, but that's going to be alright. See if you have any air, which I see a bubble right here. I'm just going to slice it and press it out. So now we've got this. We've got a plug. It's yellow in the middle, white on the outside, and then black around it. So I'm sorry, but I'm probably going to have to get my head in the shot here. I'll pull it up as close to me as I can without losing you. But I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to cut it this way. Then I'm going to cut it in half again. So I'm going to cut it into quarters this way. Now another trick that Donna showed us is if you have trouble cutting this straight, go down the side, take your blade, and just roll it down and cut a little mark, and that gives you a guide on where, that one's already there. Just happen to have one right on the seam. But see, now I've got these lines. I don't know if you can see them or not, like right here. So what I'm going to do when I cut is I'm going to press down and I'm going to look on both sides and follow those lines, which will keep it fairly straight. Just take your time, which is not something I'm known to be good at. And now I'm going to cut it this way. I'm going to follow the lines. It does turn out better when you take your time and make your marks to follow. Okay, so now you've got, you can see where there's a little bit of air in there, but you've got 4 wedges. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take each wedge and I'm going to pull this black up the side. Just use your thumb or whatever, your fingers, depends on what you want. Leave the yellow in the point here. Don't want to mess that up. But you want to bring this up as far as you can without, you don't want to go all the way up to the tip, but at least halfway up. Now this is a technique you can use for making all kinds of flower petals. But today we're making a daisy. So that's enough on that side. Let's work on the other side. Just pull up the black. And I'll do one more for you on camera, then I won't make you watch all of them. So you start with your wedge and just start rolling with your thumb, pulling that black up. You're also curving the white with it. The white will curve around. Do the same on both sides. Like I said, leave the yellow up here at the tip. You don't want to cover that up. Okay, I've got 2 that are done. Now I'm going to do the other 2 off camera so you don't have to watch me, but I'll be back in just a minute. I just reread my instructions, and what Donna had told us to do is to lay the flat side against your finger, and then you can push with your thumb a little bit easier. And that way you don't misshape your point. And that does work pretty well. So I just remembered something when I saw that. It's like I said, it's probably been 15 years since I learned this from her, and my notes are a little iffy. You know how when you make a note, you know at the time what that note means, and then you go back years later and say, I wonder what this means. But that was much easier to pull the black up. So just wanted to share that with you. I'll be back. Okay, it's a good thing I stopped to go through my notes because I almost forgot something. We are going to need some translucent. But first of all, we're going to take these petals, and let me show you, they're not as ugly as they appear to be here. See, it's a pretty nice looking little petal. Since I cut that off, I'll cut this end off also. Oh, I forgot to turn my TV off. Sorry about that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take two of these and put them together. First I'm going to put them back into a petal shape, or press them into a petal shape. You don't want them to be round now. You want them to be more of a petal shape. So you can just press on these black sides a little bit and press these together. Excuse me, but I'm going to go turn my TV off. I apologize for that. It was quiet when I came in here because it was like news and things like that. And then all of a sudden another show came on and it got rather loud. So I apologize for the noise. But anyway, so I'm pressing these two together and pressing the yellow together. And this is going to make a petal. And you can press here on the sides. Pinch this part because you want this to be the center. And you're going to end up with sort of a heart-shaped petal. And I'm going to do the same with this. I'm going to press this into a petal shape. Doesn't have to be exact at this point. You just want to make it a little bit easier. And again, I'm going to cut these ends off so I can see what I'm doing. And press these two together. And press the yellows together. And then press on the black. And try to pinch the yellow, and so you're making it one big petal shape instead of two. So now we've got two petals like this. Now this is where you want to wrap this only on, you don't want to wrap the yellow, you only want to wrap from the black. You pinch this yellow a little bit more there. It's easier to show you than to tell you. So I'm going to put this on my thing, and I'm going to line the end of the, still is up a little bit further than I want it just because I was fiddling with it too much. Just on the black part. You want to leave the yellow part open. See where I started just on the edge of the black? And I'll go around this way to the edge of the black. You notice I didn't wrap this in because that end is the wonky end that I'm going to have to cut off, and I didn't want to waste my clay. Let me go ahead and do the other one while I'm in that mode. If I do it this way, I usually incorporate air, but I want to show you what I'm doing. And I'm going to cut it right there at the edge of the black. This one still needs to be pressed more into a petal shape. But you notice there's a opening right through here. So what you want to do is to take like a knitting needle or whatever and press down your center. To fill in that gap. Then you need some translucent in a thin little, see, that didn't get pressed in right there. You want it all to be the same because you are making a cane, so you want it to be the same all the way through. So I'm going to roll this into a thin little rope. Doesn't have to be quite as thin as the knitting needle, because you want some left over, and I'll show you why. Let me do this first. Because you want to take this and kind of mash it so that you have a flat, it's flat across here, or rounded. I know this bothers you because it bothers me. And I'm pressing, because of the way I did this one, this must be the one that I did in my hands, because it's a little bit, got some air in there. So I'm just pressing from the inside out to get that air out. And then I'm just going to flatten this out just a little bit so that it gives it more of a rounded shape. You can see that here. So now what you need to do, or what I need to do, is to reduce each of these to 8 inches. Each one of these is going to make 4 petals. And this should be nice and soft because I've been working with it, so hopefully it will reduce well. But you do want to try to keep your yellow, like here it's beginning to go over the yellow. You don't want that. You've got it. You want to keep your yellow there. I'm going to press this a little bit and see if I can't get this yellow up a little bit. So you're not going to be able to roll this because you've got it in a petal shape, but because it's soft, you can press, you can twist, and you can tug. Just don't tug too much at one time. And when your clay is all one temperature, you will find that your clay will just start what we call moving. And mine is moving pretty good right now. Don't be afraid of your clay. And if you want, because this got so thin that it flared out, you can just take a little thin piece, stick it in there, roll it with your roller, and just keep on going. But I'm going to reduce both of these down to 8 inches. And then I'll be back. Okay, I've reduced both of these down to 8 inches, and now I'm going to cut them in 2-inch segments. Which will give us 8 petals, 8 double petals. Okay, so now we've got these 8 double petals, and I'm going to put them together loosely just to kind of get an idea of how big the center is going to be. I can set them up on end because we need to make a center. Okay, so it looks like it needs to be about that size. So what I'm going to do, you can do several things. You can make a black and white spiral if you like. Let me clean my hands off. I've got another little tip while you're in here. I keep a cheap hand lotion here on my work table, and when I finish with my clay, I just take it and I rub it all over, and take a paper towel and wipe it off, and all the clay residue comes off my fingers and my hands are not dried out. So just another little tip from Gayle. Now, you can take scrap canes that you have. I've got these little canes. These are little spiral canes. I've got this that's a polka dotted cane, which would work. It probably would work in this case. Or you can make your own spiral cane from scratch. And if you don't have one, there is a tutorial that I did back when I first started making tutorials. I think it's called an easy bracelet, something like. I'll put the link in the description. But this will work. This is something I'm trying to use up as much of my old things as I can. So I'm going to take these back down. I'm going to place these a little bit better. And see, that translucent is going to give just a little bit of space between these petals. Let me place that in there. Just make sure all of them are touching that little center all the way down. Then you can start pressing these together a little bit so that they'll all be about the same size. And again, you're going to have these little spaces like this in your cane. So I'm going to take this same translucent. I wondered why I had that set over there. It's because it had some black on it. Oh well, it doesn't really matter at this point. And in this case, I think I will make these into little triangles. Just by pinching the top. Then I'll lay them down in this groove. I may have to condition some more translucent clay. And I am going to shave this little bit of black off. And I will have to condition some more translucent, I think. Well, I'm absolutely sure because I need to wrap it when I'm finished. But let me get this part done. Feel free to fast forward through this if you want, but I don't want to make too many breaks in this video. Kind of understand the ones for noise. Pinch the top. While you're pinching the top, the bottom is getting flat. So that's how you're making your little triangle. See that? And you can lay the point side down in these grooves to maintain the shape of your petal. That's what you're doing. I lost my point when I laid it down. There it is. Put this down in the big one. Okay, so I'm going to finish doing this, and I'm going to condition some more so we can do the wrapping, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got all of my little petals packed here so they won't they won't all get mashed together. I'm going to just roll this a little bit to kind of smooth out some of these ridges. Sounds a little funny because it's got these little bumps in it. You can squeeze. And when you've got it fairly smooth, you can go back and press each one of these with your fingers to make sure each one is smooth. Then I've got another sheet of translucent that I have rolled to the number 2 setting of our pasta machine. The number 2 setting is, where's my translucent? There it is. Couldn't find my translucent wrapper. Stuck my black on top of it. I'm going to use the longer end because I feel like the other one may not be short enough, but you're going to take this. Anyway, I roll this to a number 2. The thickest setting on my pasta machine is 9 playing cards thick. The second setting, number 2, is 7 cards thick. Number 3, which I use a lot, is 5 cards thick. So I decided to go with the in-between. So I did the number 2 setting, which is 7 playing cards thick, because I wanted enough of an edge here that it's going to protect my cane. And try to roll it straight. And I was right, it went to the thickest, went all the way down, so it's not making a mark very well, so I'm just going to cut it. Yeah. And again, I'm going to squeeze. You find you really squeeze your canes a lot, but it helps get the air out. It helps kind of pack it all together. I probably could do this a little more. I'm going to take a sharper blade because this is a rather big cane. And I'm going to slice one end of it. I think I'll slice this end. A little bit of red got on my translucent. But there is our daisy. Now you can reduce this down into different sizes. You can slice them and put them on a flower. You know, if you're taking like what Donna used to do, one of her signature things is to do like a Skinner blend, like from blue to white, and then place flowers and leaves on them. And this was one of the flowers that she used, but I just love the daisy. And I probably will reduce this down quite a bit. But what I'll do is I'll reduce it down, then cut it in half, leave that half that size. Then I'll reduce this one half of it down another size, cut it in half, and that way I'll end up with 4 or 5 different sizes of daisy canes. But there you go. There is our daisy. So hope you like this. I appreciate all your support, and I will be back again soon with another polymer clay video. Thanks. Bye-bye.